Chapter 31. A kill every 10 steps, casually leave when the deed ends. J. Pure Sect, Main Peak. The elders of the 18 peaks were all heavily injured. They were either meditating to recuperate or lying on the ground, unable to get up. They were all staring at the sky as Lei Qingzi and the great-grand elder fought Duan Tongshan. Duan Tongshan's black robes fluttered in the wind as a gigantic black mountain floated behind him. Lightning interweaved on the black mountain, and the powerful suction force made it difficult for Lei Qingzi and the great-grand elder to move. Violent winds wreaked havoc on the mountain, sweeping up countless trees as dust mixed with sparks flying. Lei Qingzi and the great-grand elder were both injured. Their deoised robes were torn and their hair was disheveled. They looked extremely pathetic. Although they were already exhausted, they still had to fight. They knew that if they were defeated, it would really be the end of the Jade Pure Sect. Their skin was golden in color, and their muscles exposed through the holes on their robes were visually impactful. Heavenly Constellation Golden Body. If not for this secret technique, they would have long been defeated. Duan Tongshan looked down at them and said with a sinister smile, "Give up. You aren't my match at all. If you kneel and beg for mercy, perhaps I can make your disciples suffer less. The grudge that has lasted for hundreds of years should be settled." Lei Qingzi, still holding his golden ruler, spat out a mouthful of blood and shouted, "Duan Tongshan, the disciples of the Jade Pure Sect would rather die than submit to the demonic path." With a swing of his ruler, gales of fire swept forth toward Duan Tongshan. Duan Tongshan waved his hand casually, and the black mountain behind him absorbed the fire gust. Great-Grand Elder cursed and said, gritting his teeth, "This mountain is a connate black magnet. It absorbs and dissolves spirit energy. This demon doesn't even need to cast any spells. He will exhaust us to death just with the magnet." Duan Tongshan hadn't used his full strength this entire time. He was deliberately playing with and torturing them. "Damn it, what should we do?" Lei Qingji clenched his fist indignantly. Great-Grand Elder fell silent. Not far away, Fairy Caixuan sighed. "We're finished after all." Fairy Caixuan couldn't help but think of Hanju. That kid is probably still in seclusion. Fairy Caixuan was both angry and helpless, her heart filled with sorrow. She blamed herself even more when she thought of the other disciples. "As your master, I can't protect you. I can only die before you." Fairy Caixuan slowly stood up, her body swaying, but her eyes were still filled with determination. Even if she died, she would die for the Jade Pure Sect. At the edge of the cliff, Mozu was stopped by two fiendish cultivators. "Little beauty, if you're willing to serve us and make us happy, you might not have to die." One of them laughed and looked at her with lust. Mozu looked behind them. Mo Fukao was busy fighting 3 other Golden Core Realm cultivators from the viridescent Nether cult and couldn't save her. Damn it. Mozu gritted her teeth, turned and leaped down the cliff. Even if she died, she didn't want to be harassed by the fiendish cultivators. She fell through layers of clouds. She wanted to use her flying sword, but she had exhausted the spirit energy in her body. She smiled bitterly. She was really going to die now. She closed her eyes slowly as a face appeared in her mind. A face of unparalleled beauty that was even prettier than women. If I was as determined as him when cultivating, I would have been able to kill a few more fiendish cultivators now before I die. Sigh. "Hanju, will we meet again in our next life?" "No. I hope that in my next life, you will have achieved immortality." Sparkling tears fell from the corners of Mo Xu's eyes. At this moment, she suddenly felt someone catch her and heard a familiar voice. "Miss Mo, why are you down here?" "Hanju." Mo Xu was stunned. What does he mean by down here? Is Hanju already dead? Are we in the Yellow Spring? Mo Xu opened her eyes and saw Hanju's handsome face. She was lying in his arms. Hanju caught Mo Future's aura and immediately flew up, carrying Mo Xu. "Honestly, this girl has a good body. She's so comfortable to hug." "Bah! What nonsense are you thinking? It must be a test from the Great Tao. Are we already dead?" Mo Xu stared at him in a daze and asked weakly. Hearing that, Hanju raised his right hand. "Pa!" He slapped Mozu, and she instantly jolted awake. So painful. Mozu rubbed her red cheeks and looked at him in surprise. As the two of them returned to the cliff, Hanju swept his gaze over and saw Mo Fuchao being surrounded by 3 fiendish cultivators. He immediately used the 3 pure shadow sword technique. With a flash of sword light, blood painted the ground. The 3 fiendish cultivators were instantly killed by the sword shadows. Mo Fuchao was stunned. 3 Golden Core Realm experts were instantly killed. When he saw that it was Hanju who had attacked, he was very shocked. Impossible. Brother Han. Mo Fuchao wanted to say something, but Hanju suddenly tossed Mo Zhu to him. Take care of her. With these words, Hanju continued to fly towards the main peak. Mo Fuchao's favorability towards you has increased. Current favorability, 5.5 stars. Hanju ignored the notification. Along the way, he used his finger as a sword and continuously executed the unparalleled finger divine sword, causing sword ki to shoot out and kill the fiendish cultivators along the way. The disciples of Jade Pure Sect looked at him in shock. Who is that person? So strong. Is he an elder of the sect? Why haven't I seen him before? Wait, he seems to be a disciple from Jade Serene Peak, ranked 3rd in the inner disciple trial a few decades ago. Is he a core candidate? Hanju disregarded the gazes along the way and reached out with his divine sense. He could feel the powerful pressure coming from main peak. The aura of a soul formation realm cultivator. When Hanju passed by Jade Serene Peak, he caught Chang Yuer's aura. Chang Yuer and the disciples of Jade Serene Peak were fighting as a large group against twice as many fiendish cultivators. The situation was extremely bad. Hanju waved his hand, and sword shadows immediately zoomed off. 3 sword shadows of different colors were as fast as lightning, killing one fiendish cultivator after another. Screams of agony could be heard. Liu Sangxin, Chang Yuer, and the rest were stunned. They turned their heads subconsciously and saw Hanju flying over from afar. Junior Han. Chang Yuer cried out in joy. The surrounding fiendish cultivators were so frightened that they fled. However, the sword shadows chased after them. When Hanju vanished from sight, the sword shadows had already killed close to 100 fiendish cultivators. A kill every 10 steps, casually leave when the deed ends. Is it really Junior Hanju? Liu Sangxin was stunned. He thought that Hanju was just passing by, and that the one who really attacked was another expert. The technique was too powerful. Main peak, in the forest. Xing Hongxuan was leaning against a tree trunk. Her right arm was bleeding profusely, and her robes were soaked red. Yet she still looked extremely beautiful. In front of her stood a man in black. The black-clothed man held a ring-shaped saber in his hand and smiled sinisterly. I'll give you a chance. Go back and marry me and I'll spare your life. Otherwise you'll die here. I'll extract your soul and refine you into a ghost slave. Faced with the black-robed man's threat, Xing Hongxuan gritted her teeth and said, It's impossible for me to return to the cult. When Duan Tongshan forced my parents to their deaths, I decided to take revenge. As for marrying you, are you even worthy? A hint of killing intent flashed through the black-robed man's eyes. You're about to die, yet you still dare to mock me. You're asking for it. The man in black was about to speak when he suddenly looked up and saw a figure appear above the forest. Xing Hongxuan looked up and exclaimed in surprise, Husband. Hanju asked indifferently, Miss Xing, do you need help? Chapter 32. I'm a soul formation realm cultivator. Bastard! How dare you harm my potential companion? Hanju looked indifferent, but he was surging with killing intent deep within. When Xing Hongxuan heard Hanju's question, she subconsciously nodded. However, on second thought, this black-clothed man was ranked 2nd among the cult's core disciples. Even if Hanju had already broken through to the Golden Core Realm, he was definitely at the early stages of the Golden Core Realm. How could he defeat the black-robed man? Xing Hongxuan said, Husband, hurry. Before she could say escape, the man in black suddenly attacked. The black-robed man sensed that Hanju was at the 9th level of the Foundation Establishment realm. How dare a 9th level foundation establishment realm cultivator disturb me? How impudent! The man in black slashed out with his saber, causing saber ki to rise rapidly. Without another word, Hanju raised his hand and executed the 9 dragons devil-expelling seal. The golden jade seal descended from the sky and dispersed the saber ki before pressing down on the man in black. It was a terrifying amount of pressure. Greatly shocked, the man in black immediately jumped away. Hanju followed up with the 3 pure shadow sword technique. Sword shadows flashed. The man in black died before he even landed. It was a gruesome death. He was torn into pieces. Sim Hongxuan widened her eyes in disbelief. Find a place to hide. With these words, Hanju flew towards the summit of Main Peak. Sim Hongxuan was rooted in place in the forest for a long while. Sim Hongxuan's favorability toward you has increased. Current favorability, 6 stars. It increased again. Hanju smiled bitterly. It seemed that this woman would never fall in love with another man in her life. My damned charm and strength. On Main Peak, Fairy Kaixuan, Old Immortal Deweis Thunder, Deweis Qingshu, and the other elders were all lying in pools of blood, heavily injured. Most of the elders of the 18 peaks were here, while the remaining elders were in the inner sect battling with the other experts of the cult. Compared to them, Light Kingzi and the Great Grand Elder were in the worst state. Both of their heavenly constellation golden bodies had been destroyed. Light Kingzi lost both his arms and knelt in the ruins. The Great Grand Elder's face was covered in blood as he meditated to recover. There was no more suspense in this battle. Duan Tongshan stood on the connate black magnet with a mocking smile. Do you still want to resist? Guess how many people from Jade Pure Sect are still alive? The elders were silent. Many of them had even closed their eyes and were waiting for death. Fairy Kaixuan also closed her eyes. Jade Pure Sect would be destroyed today. From today onwards, Jade Pure Sect would no longer exist in the cultivation world. Villains die from talking too much. I don't think you've heard of this saying before. A voice drifted over. Duan Tongshan glanced over and saw Hanju flying over at a moderate speed on his flying sword. 9th level of the Foundation Establishment Realm? Duan Tongshan laughed. All the elders of the Jade Pure Sect looked over. When Fairy Kaixuan saw Hanju, she immediately panicked and hurriedly said, "What are you doing here? Hurry up and leave." Light Kingzi and the Great Grand Elder looked at Hanju with complicated expressions. They still remembered him. They had bad impressions of him. They felt that he was afraid of death and had no future. They didn't expect that only Hanju would dare to come up the mountain during this crisis. Sigh, they both sighed at the same time. Hanju flew to Fairy Kaixuan and asked with concern, "Master, are you all right?" Fairy Kaixuan's hair was messy. This was the first time Hanju saw her in such an unglamorous state. Even so, Master is still breathtakingly beautiful. Fairy Kaixuan said in a low voice, "Listen, leave immediately. Run as far as you can. From now on, you're no longer a disciple of the Jade Pure Sect." Facing the powerful cult leader, Fairy Kaixuan wishes for you to leave. You have the following choices. Hanju wasn't affected by the notification. He had come here because he had already made the decision. Duan Tongshan said with a smile, "Kid, you have guts. Amongst the Jade Pure Sect disciples, only you have guts. If you kneel and kowtow 3 times to me, I will spare your life and give you a chance to join the viridescent nether cult." Boom. Immediately after speaking, he unleashed the terrifying aura of a soul formation stage cultivator, and the rubble on the ground trembled so violently that it couldn't even settle on the ground. Hanju's black hair fluttered in the wind. He was calm as he turned to look at Duan Tongshan. "Are you really not going to spare the Jade Pure Sect?" Hanju asked. The Kailan sword appeared in his hand. His blood was boiling. "Even if I'm low profile, I still fight for a cause. Right now, I'm going to kill a soul formation realm cultivator." Duan Tongshan laughed scornfully. "How can we let go of a grudge that has lasted for hundreds of years? If it was you in my shoes, you wouldn't spare the viridescent nether cult." Hanju nodded in agreement. He walked towards Duan Tongshan. "Are you willing to give in?" Tongshan asked with a spurious smile. Hanju smiled and said, "Not really, I'm prepared to kill you." He said this very casually, but it shocked all the elders of the Jade Pure sect. When all the experts of the sect were defeated, a Foundation establishment realm disciple actually dared to stand out and say that he wanted to kill the cult leader. What kind of guts did he have? At this moment, all the elders looked at Hanju with a different gaze. They were full of respect. Even if he died, he would die a spectacular death. Ha ha ha, we already have such a disciple. So what if we perish? Old Immortal Dewe's Thunder laughed loudly. Because he laughed too hard, his injuries were accidentally aggravated, causing him to cough in pain. The other elders praised Hanju. Tongshan frowned as killing intent flashed across his eyes. Just as he was about to speak, a thunderous roar erupted. "Seo, so you're here. Die!" Zhang Kunmo sped over with an iron whip in hand and a flying sword beneath his feet. He was furious. Hanju turned around and looked at him carefully. "Hey, isn't he Chen Sanchen's master?" The enraged Zhang Kunmo charged towards Hanju without any hesitation. Just as he was about to collide with him, Hanju raised his hand and used the Nine Dragons Devil Expelling Seal. The surging Six Paths spirit energy transformed into a golden jade seal, shooting out like a mountain. It was a juggernaut. All Jade Pure Sect elders widened their eyes. His spirit energy. Fairy Kaixuan was also shocked, and her beautiful eyes widened. Zhang Kunmo's expression changed drastically, and he immediately brandished his iron whip. Fiendish ki surged into the iron whip and was discharged as a violent gust. Boom! The Nine Dragons Devil Expelling Seal exploded, and Zhang Kunmo was sent flying while vomiting blood. He plunged into the sea of clouds and vanished without a trace. Instant defeat. Impossible. Everyone was astonished. Tongshan couldn't help widening his eyes as if he had seen a ghost. Zhang Kunmo wasn't weak. In terms of strength, he was ranked in the top 3 of the viridescent nether cult. This kid's spiritual energy is so overwhelming. He's not at the 9th level of the Foundation establishment realm. Nascent Soul Realm. Why didn't I know that the J Pure sect had this Nascent Soul Realm cultivator? Boy, no wonder you dare to be so arrogant. But do you know my cultivation level? Tongshan asked with a spurious smile. Hanju couldn't help thinking that he was nuts. Why do you have so much to say? Showing off. Hanju feigned ignorance and said, "The 9th level of the Nascent Soul Realm? I'm a soul formation cultivator." Tongshan laughed wantonly. Hanju also laughed and pointed his middle finger at him. Lai Qingji suddenly sent him a voice transmission. He's stalling for time. Although he's arrogant, he didn't speak so much in the past. "Kid, you have unparalleled talent. Don't waste time here. Run, you can still escape by yourself. You might be able to defeat a nascent soul cultivator, but the difference between a soul formation cultivator and a nascent soul cultivator is like heaven and earth. Don't die here." Stalling for time. Hanju raised his eyebrows. "Then we will end this quickly." Chapter 33. Killing a Soul Formation Realm Cultivator, Zhao Zilong of Chang Mountain. Hanju raised the Kuilan sword and walked towards Tongshan. As his gaze fell on the small black mountain behind him, he became puzzled. What's that? Hanju could feel the powerful suction force. He couldn't help but think of something modern. A magnet. Tongshan had always been standing on the small black mountain. Is there some trick behind this? At this moment, Zhang Kunmo rushed up from the foot of the mountain again. His killing intent soared as he held an oil lamp. He poured his fiendish energy into the oil lamp and glared at Hanju with bloodshot eyes as if he had gone mad. "Seo, do you still want to fight with our leader? I will kill you first." Zhang Kunmo roared. The oil lamp emitted a black aura that condensed into a huge ghostly shadow, as if it came from hell. 3 sword shadows appeared behind Hanju. He raised his left hand and waved it at Zhang Kunmo. 3 sword shadows sped forth. Fast as lightning, so fast. The elders of the J Pure sect were all stunned to find that their eyes couldn't keep up with the sword shadows. Poo poo poo. Zhang Kunmo's body was instantly pierced through. Blood splattered everywhere, and his body was riddled with holes. Yet he was still holding the oil lamp high. He died on the spot. A beam of light shot out from the top of Zhang Kunmo's head. Nascent soul. Zhang Kunmo's nascent soul. Hanju squinted. The sword shadows pursued. If he wasn't even afraid of a soul formation realm cultivator, wouldn't killing a nascent soul realm cultivator be as easy as flipping his palm? No surprise. Zhang Kunmo's nascent soul was instantly chopped up. In less than 3 breaths of time, a nascent soul was easily killed by Hanju. Silence. The entire main peak fell into silence. Fairy Taixuan, Li Qingzi, Great-Grand Elder, Old Immortal de West Thunder, de West Jingshu, and the other elders were all dumbfounded. It was so nonsensical. A 9th-level foundation establishment realm cultivator is so powerful. Fairy Taixuan, Li Qingzi, Old Immortal de West Thunder, and de West Jingsu were the most shocked. They had observed Hanju for decades and knew that he was really weak before. Is he possessed? But even if he was, cultivation must start from the beginning. How could he be so fast? Hanju turned around and looked at Duan Tongshan. He discovered that Duan Tongshan wasn't shocked nor afraid. Instead, he had a mocking smile on his face. Is he crazy? Hanju thought. Duan Tongshan said, "You're indeed very strong, but you're only a nascent soul cultivator. How can you fight with me? If you bow down to me now, I can consider sparing your life. Otherwise, I'll let you experience the terror of facing me." Still acting cool. Hanju couldn't take it anymore. The sword shadows of the 3 pure shadows sword technique appeared behind him again. He immediately waved his hand, and 3 sword shadows shot out at high speed. Boom, boom, boom. 3 sword shadows collided with Duan Tongshan and exploded. Duan Tongshan's body flashed with black lightning, easily countering the shadow swords. No, it's the small black mountain beneath his feet. What's that? Hanju frowned. He raised the Kailan sword and prepared to execute his mystical power. The thing beneath my feet is a connate black magnet that can absorb spirit energy. Unless your spirit energy is stronger than mine, it's impossible for you to hurt me. Duan Tongshan laughed wantonly. Hanju pointed at him with his sword and said with a smile, "You're talking nonsense. I can kill you with 1 strike. Do you believe me?" As soon as he finished speaking, Duan Tongshan suddenly unleashed a terrifying pressure that enveloped the entire Jade Pure Sect. In an instant, all the disciples of Jade Pure Sect and the cult stopped fighting and looked at Main Peak in shock. What a terrifying pressure! Even the elders of the sect were pale and breathing heavily. They were close to Duan Tongshan. The pressure affected them more. The soul formation and nascent soul realms were worlds apart. Hanju was moved. The soul formation realm is truly powerful. However, after going through the simulation trial, he had already fought against Duan Tongshan, so he was full of confidence. I have become a soul formation cultivator. I'm blessed by the heavenly Tao and full of providence. I will definitely be the top cultivator in the Great Yan cultivation world. Jade Pure Sect will be my first stepping stone in unifying the cultivation world. Those who follow me prosper, those who oppose me perish. Brat, do you really think you can kill me with 1 strike? If you dare to attack, you're dead for sure. I've already given you a chance. Duan Tongshan raised his arms and laughed with insane madness. The elders of Jade Pure Sect looked gloomy. Duan Tongshan's aura was simply too powerful. It was so powerful that it made it hard for people to have any thoughts of resisting. Hanju had a strange expression. This fellow is too talkative. I reached the Golden Core realm at 100 years old and the Nascent Soul realm at 200. My talent. Damn it. I've had enough. Without waiting for Duan Tongshan to finish speaking, Hanju suddenly swung his sword. In that instant, the world seemed to have stopped. Not only on Main Peak, but everyone in the entire Jade Pure Sect saw a black sword key sweep across the sky like king hanging high in the air. It was absolutely shocking. A Highlands roar echoed around Main Peak. Heavenly Punishment Ghost Deity Sword. Duan Tongshan widened his eyes, unable to dodge in time. As Fairy Xuan, Li Qingzi, and the others watched in disbelief, Duan Tongshan's body was directly crushed by Han Ju's sword Kai. The sword Kai swept past, leaving an illusory figure standing on the dark magnetic field. It was Duan Tongshan's essence soul. At this moment, Duan Tongshan's face was filled with shock, as if he didn't dare believe what was happening before his eyes. His essence soul trembled. He looked at Han Ju in fear and asked with a trembling voice, "You, who exactly are you?" Han Ju stepped on thin air. It was as if there was an invisible staircase beneath his feet as he approached Duan Tongshan step by step. Xiao Zilong of Chang Mountain. Han Ju didn't reveal his real name in case he killed Duan Tongshan and someone older was to appear. He used the 7 illusionary steps and appeared before him in a flash. Duan Tongshan subconsciously fled, but Han Ju was even faster. He raised his left hand to use the mystical power of the 6 Paths of Reincarnation technique. 6 Paths Soul Absorption Technique. He directly absorbed Duan Tongshan's essence soul. "Ah, Zhao Zilong, I won't let you off even if I become a ghost." Duan Tongshan let out a miserable shriek. After shouting a few words, his essence soul was refined by Han Ju. He was deader than dead. A soul formation realm cultivator was insta-killed by Han Ju before he could even unleash his full power. Wasn't it ridiculous for a nascent soul realm cultivator to kill a soul formation realm cultivator? But Han Ju did it. Han Ju kept his sword and looked at the connate black magnet beneath his feet. The elders still hadn't recovered from their shock. Fairy Xuan was also very shocked. She couldn't believe that this was her disciple. He's too powerful. Fairy Xuan thought she was dreaming. The others had similar thoughts. A moment ago, they were still on the brink of death. Now, old immortal Dewey's Thunder raised his hand and tapped his chest a few times. The acupoints all over his body began to hurt, making him certain that he wasn't in an illusion. No wonder, the Great Grand Elder was extremely excited. Back when he cultivated the Essence Soul mystical power, he was almost beaten to death by Han Ju. It made him doubt his path, and he gave up on that mystical power. Now it seemed to him that it wasn't his fault. Han Ju was simply too strong. Like Qingti stared at Han Ju with a complicated expression, he couldn't help but recall their encounter in the 10,000 demon realm. He had made a wrong judgment. Han Ju ignored their gazes as he stared intently at the magnet. "You have successfully killed a soul formation realm cultivator. You'll obtain a bottle of unparalleled pills. Congratulations on attaining a bottle of divine cognition pills. Xioi has developed hatred towards you. Current hatred, 5 stars. Who's Xioi? Hatred of 5 stars straight away." Han Ju secretly cursed this guy. Chapter 34, Great Fiend of the Void Amalgamation Realm. Han Ju hurriedly checked his interpersonal relationships. Xioi, 2nd level of the Void Amalgamation Realm. Because you killed his puppet, Duan Tongshan, he's filled with hatred towards you. He can't wait to extract your bones and refine your soul. Current hatred, 5 stars. 2nd level of the Void Amalgamation Realm? Gosh! I knew there were gonna be older ones. Han Ju was speechless. Key refinement, foundation establishment, golden core, nascent soul, soul formation, void amalgamation, fusion, tribulation transcendence, and Mahayana. These were the realms of the cultivation world. Progression became harder at higher realms. A soul formation realm cultivator was enough to suppress the entire Jade Pure sect, not to mention a void amalgamation realm cultivator. I have to go into seclusion as soon as possible after this is over. I have to reach the soul formation realm as soon as possible. Han Ju thought silently. At this moment, a figure emerged from the connate black magnet. It was the essence soul of that person. His face was ugly like an evil spirit, as if it had been burned and then fermented by poison. His scars were either green or black on his extraordinarily big build. Fellow Taoist, you really have a good mystical power. A nascent soul cultivator killing a soul formation cultivator. Very eye-opening indeed, that person said in a disturbing tone. Han Ju raised his sword. Wait, let's talk nicely. His expression changed drastically, and he quickly lowered his stance. Hanju recognized this person. It was the Xiao whom he had just offended. His image in interpersonal relationships was as ugly as in real life. Hanju asked, "Who are you?" Xiao immediately straightened his back and said proudly, "I'm an elder of the North State's demon-taming sect, Qiao. I can forgive you for ruining my plans as long as you kowtow and admit your wrongs. I'm a great void amalgamation cultivator. Killing you is as easy as crushing an ant." Like Kingsley and the great-grand elder exchanged glances, they could see the shock in each other's eyes. No wonder the viridescent nether cult targeted the 10,000 demon realm. It was instructed by the demon-taming sect. Lei Kingsley gnashed his teeth. Great-grand elder said calmly, "From today onwards, the viridescent nether cult no longer exists." On the other side, Hanju asked doubtfully, "Did Duan Tongshan stall for time because of you?" Xiao harumphed, "Of course. That trash told me that no one in the Jade Pure sect was a match for him, and that I could forget it. Do you admit your mistake?" Hanju stared at him and said seriously, "I'm considering whether I should kill you." Xiao couldn't remain calm anymore. He said angrily, "Do you want to offend the demon-taming sect? Do you?" Before he finished speaking, he turned into a rainbow and sped towards the horizon. Hanju was about to attack, but he didn't expect Xiao to escape first. Now it was too late to give chase. As expected of an old senior, he reacts much faster than me. Hanju sighed. He needed to learn from that. He turned around and landed behind Fairy Xaixuan to heal her. Fairy Xaixuan glanced at Hanju from the corner of her eyes. She realized that he was not too excited after killing Duan Tongshan. He was as calm as ever. She suddenly couldn't see through him. So he was never cowardly. He really wanted to dedicate his life to cultivation and didn't want to be disturbed. "Hanju, your master doesn't need your help. Hurry up and kill the other disciples of the viridescent nether cult," Li Kingzi urged. Hanju replied, "No, master is the most important. You must be joking. If I kill all the fiendish cultivators, everyone in the world will know me. If I become well-known, there will also be more enemies. Many people would even want to simply challenge him." Hanju didn't want to face such a situation. He just wanted to help the Jade Pure sect survive this crisis. He would leave the rest to them. Like Kingzi, Fairy Xaixuan's lips curled up slightly. The other elders looked at her with a bit of jealousy. If they had such a disciple, what else could they ask for? "Fellow Daoist, tell us the truth. Where are you from? With your cultivation level, you're definitely not a disciple nurtured by the Jade Pure sect," one of the elders asked. They were all curious about this. Hanju replied, "Let the past remain in the past. I'm a disciple of the Jade Pure sect now, so I won't harm the sect." Everyone nodded in approval. Everyone had a past that should be kept private. At the same time, the other elders of the cult had rushed over. They didn't see Duan Tongshan. The connate black magnet was the only thing floating in the air. "Where's cult leader?" an elder asked in horror. Seeing that Hanju and the others were healing their injuries and Duan Tongshan wasn't present, they began to feel uneasy. "Hurry up and kill them. Whatever you want after this, we'll do our best to satisfy you," Lei Kingzi said anxiously. With the strength that Hanju had just displayed, killing these cult elders was a piece of cake. Hanju hesitated. The cult elders were stunned and looked at him. "A 9th level foundation establishment realm cultivator can kill us? No. He must be hiding his cultivation. Or else, how did he make our leader disappear?" The cult elders immediately retreated in fear. Like Kingzi cursed silently, he immediately stood up and walked to the cliff. He used all his remaining spirit energy in his body and roared, "Cult leader Duan Tongshan is dead. Jade Pure sect disciples, listen up. Kill all the fiendish cultivators in the sect." His voice resounded between the mountains. Then a huge commotion ensued. Members of the Jade Pure sect were really excited. All of them started fighting as if they were on stimulants. On the other hand, the fiendish cultivators of the viridescent nether cult were terrified. Their leader was already dead. What were they fighting for? Duan Tongshan didn't voice out to say otherwise. so it was most likely true. Run, our leader is dead. Damn it, the J Pure sect is so strong. J Pure sect has been hiding a mighty figure. Cult leader is at the soul formation realm. He was still defeated by that mighty figure. Crap, they're about to launch a counterattack. Like Kingsley heaved a sigh of relief when he saw the fiendish cultivators fleeing in all directions. Good that they're escaping. At least we will have fewer casualties. We will let them pay it all back another day. With Duan Tongshan's death, the cult wouldn't dare to attack the sect for a long time. J Pure sect could even take the initiative to attack. He turned to look at Han Ju, who was healing Fairy Caixuan. I can't let this kid lead the sect. Like Kingsley made a firm decision, he could no longer break through. He could only rely on others. Being able to kill a soul formation realm cultivator with a single sword strike showed Han Ju's terrifying power. Lee Kingsley needed him on J Pure sect's side. He immediately announced, from today onwards, Han Ju will be the vice sect master of the J Pure sect. Upon hearing this, the elders were all moved, but none of them refuted. I object. Lai Kingsley glared at the source of the sound, but it was Han Ju. Han Ju said righteously, I only want to cultivate. I don't want to be the vice sect master. Being the vice sect master must be tiring. I don't want it to hold back my cultivation. Lai Kingsley couldn't help but feel conflicted. Great Grand Elder said, let him be an elder. Just give him a title and let him enjoy the benefits of a vice sect master. Unless the sect is in trouble, no one is allowed to disturb him. Han Ju nodded in satisfaction. He liked this. Right, that person just now was at the Void Amalgamation Realm, Han Ju suddenly said. Honestly, he was a little disturbed. After all, the enemy had escaped. Great Grand Elder smiled and said he's only left with his essence soul. If I'm not wrong, Duan Tongshan agreed to help him recover his corporeal body and obtained the chance to break through in return. The reason why Duan Tongshan was stalling for time just now was probably to absorb the spirit key and vitality of the J Pure sect. This should be some kind of secret technique. As for the demon taming sect, there's even less to worry about. The North State is too far away from us. It can even be said to be at the other end of the world. Great Grand Elder didn't even seem concerned about Xiaoi, but Han Ju was still worried. One should never think like that. There's still a chance things may go wrong. I need to cultivate in seclusion. I must surpass the Void Amalgamation Realm as soon as possible. Chapter 35, Deity Slaying Elder, second level of the Nascent Soul Realm. After the disciples of the viridescent Nether cult fled, the J Pure sect's inner sect started to recuperate. The destroyed inner sect cities also needed to be rebuilt. The disciples weren't too sad. Instead, they were excited. There was actually a mighty figure in the J Pure sect who could easily kill a soul formation realm cultivator. The elders of the 18 Peaks told their disciples about the battle with Duan Tongshan. They didn't reveal Han Ju's identity and only mentioned a deity-slaying elder. Deity-slaying elder. Since that day, every disciple of the sect revered the deity-slaying elder. They were curious about everything related to him. That evening, at Jade Serene Peak, after Fairy Caixuan pacified all the disciples, she asked them to leave, leaving only Han Ju behind. Although the Jade Serene Peak's disciples witnessed Han Ju killing a lot of fiendish cultivators, they didn't associate him with the deity-slaying elder. Even Chang Yuer didn't suspect him. Before she left, she looked at Han Ju. After such a calamity, Han Ju was as calm as ever. She was impressed. She was prepared to wait for Han Ju outside. She had something to say to him. The door to the Jade Serene Hall closed. Only Han Ju and Fairy Caixuan were left inside. Fairy Caixuan had already recovered. She was still as beautiful as ever, like a fairy from heaven. She stared straight at him. Han Ju lowered his head, but he wasn't afraid. No matter what he did now, J Pure sect would definitely not expel him. Fairy Caixuan also had no reason to blame him. Don't you have anything to say? Fairy Caixuan asked. Han Ju looked up and asked doubtfully, what should I say? Fairy Caixuan harumphed. Who exactly are you? Why have you come to the J Pure sect? Like Kingsley could ignore it, but as his master, she had to know. Her disciple was stronger than her. How could she be the master? No wonder he never needed my guidance. Should I call you fellow De Waste Hand from now on? Facing Fairy Xaixuan's teasing, Hanju helplessly said, I really don't have any background. You should have been aware after what Junior Iron told you. Do you not believe in my talent? Fairy Xaixuan narrowed her eyes and said, even if you're talented, where did you get your abilities? You can't just create them out of thin air. A nascent soul realm cultivator killing a soul formation realm cultivator is too ridiculous. It had never been heard of. Fairy Xaixuan was sure that Sect Master and the other elders didn't believe it too. Okay, I will tell you, but please don't tell anyone. When I was young, I was told by an immortal in my dream that my talent was unparalleled, and I would definitely become an immortal. However, it would be a rough path ahead. So I didn't dare to cause trouble and cultivated in seclusion every day, Hanju said seriously. Fairy Xaixuan fell silent. Hanju didn't say anything either. After a long while, Fairy Xaixuan spoke again. If that's the case, why did you step forward to save us? The sect didn't treat you well, and I believe you wouldn't call it your home either. Hanju replied, that's true. I've lived for 100 years, but there aren't many people I care about. However, the person I care about the most is in the J Pure sect. She even said that she would rather perish together with the sect. Let me see the increase in favorability. Fairy Xaixuan's favorability of you has increased. Current favorability, 3.5 stars. Only 3.5 stars? As expected of my master. She's indeed different from other women. The colder she is, the more I like it. Hanju exclaimed in his head. Fairy Xaixuan changed the topic and asked, what are your plans from now on? Continue your seclusion. Yes, that void amalgamation realm demon might come at any moment. I have to quickly become stronger. Go ahead then. Ak. Hanju immediately stood up and left. For some reason, he was slightly disappointed. When he reached the door, he turned around and asked, Master, is the end of your lifespan approaching? Fairy Xaixuan was stunned and asked, what do you mean? Curse me to death? I'm thinking about Junior Iron. I don't want Master to leave this world. If this day really comes, I hope Master can inform me in advance. Hanju was being frank. Fairy Xaixuan said unhappily, get lost, I still have many years to live. Hanju quickly ran away. Fairy Xaixuan shook her head and laughed. She couldn't help but think of the battle again. It still felt like a dream. She didn't expect such a powerful figure to be hidden among her disciples. However, this kid actually saw her as the most important person. She was surprised. After an hour, Hanju finally freed himself from Chongyuer and returned to his cave abode. Sitting on the familiar wooden bed, Hanju yawned and stretched. What a marvelous day! I'm actually so powerful. Hanju smiled proudly. Killing a soul formation stage cultivator with a single strike. I feel awesome. Especially now that the higher-ups of the J Pure sect treated him differently. Is this the posturing that's often written in novels? Actually, it feels really good. Sure enough, it is correct to continue to train in seclusion the entire time. If I had stopped training a few years earlier, I would have missed this opportunity. I must try my best to cultivate, Hanju thought silently. If this crisis had happened a year or two ago when he hadn't broken through to the nascent soul realm, he definitely wouldn't have been able to defeat Duan Tongshan. If that was the case, he would have no choice but to run away. Those women who were his potential companions would all die. Thinking of this, Hanju became even more determined to cultivate. Before he became absolutely invincible, he had to spend all his time on cultivation. Although Duan Tongshan was dead, the potential danger was still present. The demon taming sect. Hanju was full of fighting spirit. He wanted to surpass everyone in the demon taming sect before they would come for revenge. Hanju thought as he entered his cultivation state. Half a year passed in a flash. The inner sect of the J Pure sect had recovered completely. Having recovered from their injuries, Lake Kingsley and the rest started to mobilize a large number of disciples to attack the viridescent nether cult. Hanju wasn't disturbed, and Fairy Kaixuan didn't send any disciples to find him. Duan Tongshan and Zhang Kunmo were dead. In terms of the number of experts, the cult was definitely no match for the J Pure sect. In terms of mentality, J Pure sect also had an absolute advantage. A year later, under the J Pure sect's powerful attack, the viridescent nether cult was defeated battle after battle, and eventually fled from their headquarters. The cultivation world of Great Yan was shocked. The J Pure sect's prestige had greatly increased. At the same time, Hanju reached the second level of the nascent soul realm. It took him 2.5 years to advance by a level. It was indeed not easy to break through the nascent soul realm levels. However, compared to before, his cultivation speed had increased by quite a bit. This was because he did not need to cultivate each of his cultivation potentials separately. He can directly absorb all 6 types of spirit ki and convert them into 6 paths spirit energy. Ever since he broke through to the 9th level of the Golden Core realm, he had been able to cultivate in such a manner. To a nascent soul realm cultivator, it was extremely helpful. One fine day, Cheng Yuger came to visit. The sect has gathered quite a number of natural treasures that can help increase the spirit ki in your cave abode. I'll help you plant them. There's also a spirit ki gathering array formation, Cheng Yuger said with a smile after entering the cave abode. She already knew that the deity-slaying elder was Hanju. When she heard about it, her favorability toward him increased to 5.5 stars. She had heard this news from Fairy Kaixuan, so she didn't doubt it. Junior Han was truly an unprecedented genius. No, he must be a proud son of the heavens. Hanju nodded and said, "Thank you, senior." Cheng Yuer started to get busy. As she set up the array formation, she smiled and said, "You're already the deity-slaying elder. Can I still be your senior?" Hanju smiled and said, "As long as you cultivate seriously and hard enough, you will always be my senior." With such a high favorability, how can I reject her? Cheng Yuer isn't ugly. However, Hanju didn't want to talk about love for the time being. Cultivating hard was his priority. Thus, he hoped to lead the women who liked him onto the path of dedicated cultivation. Do you want to train together? Like for 1,000 years.